All right. Hope you guys are doing okay. It's been a crazy 9 weeks. I know that with distance learning and I know it's been crazy, at least at my house. I've had two students that have had their moments. I know a Bible teacher that had some moments as well. And I'm glad that we're through that. But in all of the craziness, we missed out on some things that I was really looking forward to, and the basketball banquet was one of those. The reason why I love the basketball banquet each and every year is as the head coach, it really gives you the opportunity to not only give credit where credit is due, but it's an opportunity to really define the program in terms of using the accomplishments of the players and the character of the players to really draw attention to the things that are vitally important to the overall program. And with this being our first year, I was really looking forward to that. And so even though this isn't exactly the format that we would have preferred, just like a lot of things, of course, our senior class had to do a lot of things differently, and across the country. A lot of teams, their season ended abruptly, and so we certainly have a lot to be thankful for. But I did want to post this so that we could, give credit to you guys and to each player, and just say a couple of things about each and every one of you. So without further ado, we'll get right into it. We had a group of guys that they came to practice, every day, and they weren't eligible, but and certainly that's not, and nobody wants to go through a season where they're not able to participate in games, but it happens. It happens. Every school, I think, for the most part, there's those guys that for whatever reason they have to sit out, and it's a difficult thing to endure, because as a competitor, you certainly want to help your team. And so it's a character building year. And we had a group of guys, almost all of them were ineligible with the exception of two that probably just would have been on our JV team. And of course, we just didn't have the numbers to have a JV team. So in a sense, they kind of were in that group as well for the majority of the year. And I wanted to kind of go through those guys because you guys were certainly a huge part of our team, and you came to practice each and every day, and you rolled up your sleeves, and despite knowing that, hey, I'm not going to play this week, you still participated and gave your best effort, and that's certainly to be highly commended. And so I'm very appreciative to this group of guys that did that. The first guy is Kelvon McBride. Kelvon actually over the offseason had the most points, the most participation points as anybody on the entire team. And I was just really impressed with Kelvon's determination and his dedication. He was going to football practice and turning around and coming to basketball practice. And, even though he, wasn't going to be eligible, he behaved as if he were going to be eligible. And just always had a good attitude, always had a smile on his face. And then of course he had an injury in football season, which I know was something that was a setback for him. And so there were even times where he would come to practice for portions of practice and just sit and watch, even though he couldn't do anything because he was injured. And I just thought, to be a freshman, to have that kind of attitude and positive outlook, even though there was a lot of adversity for him, I think that just speaks very, very highly of Kelvon. And I'm just really excited to have him at Cottage Hill to be a part of our program. And I'm really looking forward to Kelvon impacting our team this year, and I think he will in a big way. Tenario Rouser, another freshman. All of these guys were freshmen. We had a good group of young freshmen. Tenario was the guy that came in, and he provided a lot of comedic relief. I won't get into all the little little nicknames and little things that were going on in the back of the van. I know you guys a lot of times didn't think I could hear what you were saying, but Tenario was such a good sport and had such a good attitude. Always came to me before games. Coach Price, is there anything you need? Can I do anything? What do you need me to do? Just had a real servant spirit about him. Just a super attitude. Just a lot of fun to be around, and I thought showed tremendous improvement over the course of the year. I mean, in the summer, you could tell that he, what was a little rusty, and he hadn't, bounced the ball in a while, but by the end of the season, Tenario had really started to come along. His shot had really improved. He was starting to understand defense and where to be. And I think Tenario has a bright future if he wants to have one in the game of basketball. Aiden Quave is another guy, a freshman that was really hoping to play JV, and it didn't work out, but he still had a really good attitude. Helped us so much on game days, with water bottles and towels and just getting everything together, and just had an outstanding attitude. Even though he didn't get to play on JV because we didn't have a team, and I just thought Aiden really did a great job and had a great attitude, despite things not going the way he really wanted them to go when the season started. Trent Thomas, Trent is one that, again, couldn't play and had to sit out, and Trent was one that every day in practice just really had a competitive fire in him and came every day and worked really hard. And he was one of those guys that 10 minutes into practice was dripping sweat and, just, again, really pushed the varsity guys that were going to play. And there were some very competitive moments throughout the course of the season where you could really see that, Trent's going to have a bright future in the game of basketball. And I thought over the course of the season, even though he wasn't playing, he was still improving. And I think that's what you want to see with guys, when they have to sit out. Are they able to use the year and get better? And I thought Trent did an outstanding job of doing that. Tyler Thomas, his brother, Tyler was one that also, they're twins, and they look alike, but they're still different, and they have their own personalities and differences. And I thought Trent was one that also, came in and had some really good moments over the course of the season. From a perimeter standpoint, you could really see his perimeter game. Not that it needed a whole lot of improvement when we started, but I thought he just made tremendous improvement as well over the course of the year, and had some moments where all of the guys that were ineligible kind of came together and started to say, hey, let's give these varsity guys some really strong competition day in and day out. And Tyler was a huge part of doing that. And so we're really looking forward to Tyler and seeing what his future is going to look like in the days ahead. And then lastly, the last freshman, Andrew Hogan. And Andrew was another one that came in, and Andrew's been sending me some videos over this COVID quarantine, and his shot he has completely changed his shot in a good way over the course. He's used this time to get better. Actually bumped into him at the store the other day, and so it's really good to see guys like Andrew, who came to practice, was always looking for ways to help the team whenever he could, see them get better. And I look at this list of guys, and there's not a single one that did not improve from this past summer to when the season ended. And I think that's just a tribute to their attitude and their effort each and every day, despite the adversity of knowing, we're not going to have a chance to play. But those days are behind us, and there are really good days ahead. So we're going to move right into the varsity roster now. I'll quickly go through each guy that was on the varsity roster. We start off with freshman Lamar Nelson. Lamar came in kind of late, was with us in the summer, and then came in a couple of weeks before the season really got started and said, Coach, I think I'd really like to play. And I'm glad he did. Lamar came in and immediately brought just some toughness to our team, and just really had that gritty bulldog mentality that, it's sometimes it's God-given just to have that competitive spirit to compete. And the thing I appreciate about Lamar is he didn't get caught up in stats, and he wasn't a guy that was going to, after a game, say, hey Coach, how many this did I have, or what. I mean, he just was going to go out there and compete. And there was never a game, I can't think of a single game where when the game was over, I could think of plays where Lamar took some plays off. He never did. He competed, and I think the greatest testament I could give to Lamar was the very last game of the season. We had adversity all year long, and all the way up to the last game of the season. And your leading scorer and starting point guard breaks his foot in pregame warmups in the sub-state game on the road against a guy that is just a phenomenal athlete and player, and so the game plan changed in terms of our matchup in within seconds. And so who steps up to the plate and just isn't phased and really just, I thought just showed tremendous heart. And that's just because that's who he is. That's just who he is. I don't think he found any additional motivation. I think it's just there, and it's always going to be there. And so I'm really appreciative to Lamar, and just a fine young man, and a great competitor, and a guy that, I know football is his thing, but he could really, really have a fun and meaningful high school basketball career if he really put his mind to it, and I hope that he will. So Lamar, we appreciate your contributions to our team. You did an outstanding job. We have another freshman, Josh Bell, and Josh, again, he sat out last year as an 8th grader, and so he was able to step into the point guard role, and I thought showed a lot of growth over the course of the year. And we're really, really looking forward to Josh and the future that he has with us at Cottage Hill. Just has a tremendous amount of ability, and when he's able to put it all together, I think the sky's the limit for him. And he's just Josh is such a good kid, just very, very kind, very quiet, but I've really enjoyed getting to know Josh, and can't wait to see what these next 3 years have in store for him. Cam Pazant, he's our lone sophomore. We've only got one, and it's Cam. And we'll talk about Cam, here in a little while. But Cam is just an outstanding young man, and just really on the scout team. And I thought he just when he had to play defense, he did it to the very best of his ability. When he was on offense, he was doing all he could do to simulate what we were going to see in games. And I just can't say enough good things about Cam. And Cam knows how I feel about him, and just very appreciative to everything that he brought to our team this year. Heath Morley, Jr. I love me some Heath Morley. Heath was another guy that came to us and just said, hey, Coach, I think I want to play. And he was one that I thought he was going to play back in spring practice. He came out, and then he got kidnapped by aliens in a UFO or something, and we never saw him again. And I talked to him a little bit, but then he came in with JD and with Lamar, and he said, Coach, I'd like to play basketball. And Heath is he's the kind of young man that I just love having in our program. Just great attitude, great work ethic, is going to give you everything he has each and every day. You're never going to hear him complain. He's not going to murmur. He's not going to mumble stuff under his breath. He's yes, sir, no, sir, and he's looking for the positive. And I just, you can never have enough Heath Morleys in your program. And I'm just so glad that he decided to give basketball a chance, and I hope now that he's rolling into that senior year, I hope he'll stick with it and bring that big wide body of his into practice every day. And if we can just work on some things, and I know that might be hard with the way the summer is and all that, but I do think he can certainly come in as a senior after having a year under his belt this past year and have a meaningful role on our team. So we're really excited about Heath. Tobias Hogabuk. Tobias is a young man that, we didn't see him a whole lot last summer because of, he had to go out of town for the greater part of the summer. But when he came back and school started, he really, really did apply himself, in the weight room, in our conditioning. Running wasn't one of his favorite things to do, but he really did apply himself, and you started to see his body change, and he got stronger. He started to understand and grasp some of the concepts that we were trying to teach, and Tobias had maybe a little bit of a roller coaster ride, and there were some highs and some lows, but the thing that you always want to do, and you hear it's a sports cliche, you hear it from a lot of coaches, is finish strong. And it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And there's a lot of truth to that. And I thought Tobias definitely finished strong. And he definitely finished stronger than the way things got started. And towards the end of the year, he was giving us some really good minutes. I saw some really good flashes that the light bulb had really started to come on, and he was trying to fulfill the role. Defensively, he was attempting to be in position. He was starting to really hit the boards the way that I know that he can. And then, even in our off season, before the whole COVID thing hit, he was starting to shoot the ball. He was finally starting to kind of figure out some things mechanically in his shot, and we were seeing the ball go through the basket. And so I really, there's no doubt in my mind, Tobias's best basketball is still in front of him if he really applies himself and works hard. And I hope, we're able to kind of pick up where he left off. And, the other thing with Tobias is I saw him mature. I really did see him mature as a young man. And, we all have our good days and our bad days, but Tobias is he's just a fine young man, and I really saw some maturity out of him, and I have no doubt he's going to provide some quality leadership for our team this next year. Tyler Copeland. I'm going to keep it nice. I'm not going to have any tight short jokes or rolled up shorts. I'm going to kind of stay away from those. But on a serious note, Tyler had a really outstanding year for us, and we'll talk about him here in just a second. But I'm just really pleased with Tyler, and I just thought he had a consistent year. You always want to shoot it a little bit better or make this play here, and you can start finding those plays that you wish you could get back, and that's with everybody, and that's every game. But so sometimes he would beat up on himself, and he would get down on himself if things didn't go exactly the way he wanted to. But, Tyler was consistent all year, and just a huge part of our team and the success that we were able to have. And so we're excited about Tyler and of course, the year he has coming up. Chris Harris, we had two seniors, and Chris was one that, again, was kind of on a little bit of a roller coaster with us over the course of the summer, and had some good flashes, but I really saw Chris grow over the course of the year, and we'll talk about him here in just a second as well. But just a fine young man, and someone that I know God has big things in store for Chris. He's just got a good heart, and he wants to make people happy, I appreciate him and the maturity that we saw out of him over the course of the year. And then last but not least, Joe Cockrell, our second senior that we had, and Joe was one that came out of football it took him a little while to get his get his legs under him, but in time he really started to come along and just had a great year. So that is the roster from the guys that were supposed to be on JV and we didn't have a JV team, to those guys that came in and weren't eligible, but yet were still just a huge part of our team and impacted our team, even though they didn't necessarily get in the games. And they kept film. They did film study, videoing for us. They got water bottles, and they did all of those little behind the scenes things. And so we're appreciative of all of these guys. So now we'll get into our awards, and I've got 5 awards that we're going to give, and you certainly would just love to give everybody a trophy, but these are awards that I think where some guys separated themselves. And you know what? I'm going to go back because I forgot. I skipped right over JD Petway. Holy cow. I'm sorry. It's kind of shady in here, and I'm so sorry. But JD Petway, how can I forget JD Petway? JD is another one of our guys that was with us in the summer and then, decided he didn't want to play, and he came in right before the year started, and of course, JD's got kind of one of those Magic Johnson smiles that just kind of lights up the room. It's like, how can you stay mad at JD? Once he smiles, you're like, okay, whatever, sure, you can be on the team, JD. And so he did have a really good attitude when he came in, and he said, Coach, I really do want to play, and I think I can help the team, and he did. And one thing I will say about JD, we had a team meeting, and in the team meeting, I can't remember exactly how it was framed, but I did say, if you really want to know what you need to do to take the next step, then I'll be more than happy to share with you what I think you need to do to take the next step. And it wasn't 30 minutes later, I heard a knock on the door, and then there's JD. And he came in with all sincerity and humility, and he said, Coach, what can I do? What can I do to take the next step? And I just think that's such a huge sign of maturity, to humble yourself and say, hey, I don't think I've arrived. I think that there's something that I could do better. What do you think I can work on? And, JD, I just thought, he came in and he was just one of those glue guys for us all year. He might hit a big shot, or it may just be bringing the ball up the floor. It might be just snatching down a rebound. But JD, on a consistent basis, was trying to help his team. And even though, he wasn't with us much over the summer, and he kind of came in a little bit late, he didn't waste any time trying to contribute to our team. And I'm just very, very thankful that JD decided to play. And just a great competitor. Just has the heart of a lion, and just he's just someone that you enjoy having it on the team in your program. And when you're a fan in the stands, he's just one of those guys that your eyes just always seem to find JD. And so I'm very, very thankful for JD and him joining our team, and I hope that this next year he'll pick up right where he left off and help be the leader that I know that he is. He is. He has tremendous leadership potential, and so I'm hopeful that we get to see that up close and personal this next year. So before I move on, I want to make sure I haven't forgotten anybody, and that's the danger when you start going down a list. Sometimes your eyes miss something, and I think I got everybody. So I know I'm creeping up on 25 minutes. But I really didn't want to miss anybody, and I don't think I did. So now we'll get into our awards. Offensive Player of the Year. Offensive Player of the Year. So this is one that I don't think I have ever done this before, where I've had co-offensive players of the year. But this was so close in terms of, even statistically, it was close statistically across the board. And I mean, you can't say one guy was more valuable in terms of their offensive production than the other. It's really impossible to say that. And so when you feel like both guys are deserving, then you have to have a co-offensive player of the year. And I really do think both of these young men are deserving of this award. The first recipient of the offensive player of the year is a freshman. He was our point guard. He averaged 15 points a game. He had 388 points in 26 games, which is 14.9 points a game. His overall field goal percentage was 46%, 65% from the free throw line, and he had 2 assists. And Josh is a young man that, when you come in as a freshman and you're thrown into the fire at a position like the point guard position, on the varsity level with, he had sat out last year. I knew that he was going to have a lot of growing pains. And we talked about that before the year started. We said, look, this is not always going to look the way we want it to look. There's going to be those moments where, you're going to be frustrated. If I had any hair to pull out, I would pull it out. But hey, we're just going to have to just go through it. This is a grow year. This is a year where we know there's going to be growing pains. There's going to be frustrating moments. Let's weather the storms. And hopefully when we get to the other side, you're better. You're better from going through it. And so, Josh was our leading scorer, and tied for the lead in assists with the other recipient. Same exact free throw percentage, almost the same exact field goal percentage, and only separated by 4 points a game offensively. But Josh, he took on the challenge, and sometimes we had those moments, those growing pain moments that we would expect. But I think Josh has a tremendous amount of potential, both as a basketball player and as a young man. Just has a very tender heart, just a great kid. Josh would always ride shotgun, and he quiet as he can be, but he kind of has that little half smile when he wanted to laugh. And I've really enjoyed having Josh in our program. And I just see a lot of really good things for him in the future. And I know that God has an amazing plan for Josh in his life. And I think that basketball can open a lot of doors for that destiny that God has for him. And so we're excited to have the opportunity to see that. So our second co-offensive player of the year is a young man that averaged 11 points a game, 2 assists. He had 271 points in 25 games. He shot almost 50% overall from the floor. And Tyler Copeland. Tyler Copeland was our shooting guard. And, there was nobody on the team that wanted to perform than Tyler. I mean, Tyler, a lot of times you could just see it. He wanted it so bad. He wanted to do the things that we had, asked him to do offensively. The effort was always there. Just, there were some times where, we had talked about possessing the ball and things like that, but there were times where he would turn down wide open shots, and we had to have a few of those conversations. Tyler, I need you to shoot the basketball. But he was very unselfish, sometimes to a fault. But, I think that speaks to the fact that he's a team first guy. He's absolutely a team first guy. And he always put the team first before his own personal goals and his own personal aspirations. And that's a testament to his character. And I just really appreciate Tyler and Josh this year for their contributions to our basketball team, and they are very well deserving of co-offensive player of the year. All right, that takes us to defensive player of the year. Now, we had a rough year at times, and we know that. We had some highs and some lows, and our highs were good. I mean, when you think about that stretch of games where I think we won, maybe 4 or 5 games in a row there, and we went to the Bayside tournament and won the Bayside tournament, and just played some really, really good basketball. Defensively, I think that was our peak. I mean, I hate that it happened that early in the year, but for whatever reason it did. But our defensive player of the year was a guy that, when you look at the stats, and sometimes defensively the stats don't always show up. You can look at defensive rebounds, you can look at steals, you can look at deflections, you can look at charges taken, and those are some stats. But what you can't stat all the time is being in position off the ball, being down in a stance, really just hunkering down and trying to keep the ball in front of you at all costs. And this guy, I thought, and the funny thing is, I had tried to get scouting reports on guys, before we even got into summer. And one of the things I heard on Tyler is, sometimes he's just a little, defensively, he's not always motivated. But I never, ever saw that young man on our basketball team. I just thought he made it his mission to be better on defense. And I think he succeeded. And I think he's going to be even better this year if he can stay healthy. And I think all of the things that he learned and how we want to defend on a daily basis and getting through screens and how we switch and in terms of how to keep the ball in front of us and how to gap and all of those things. He was a technician, and he really did take the details and try to implement them in his game defensively. And so even though his stats don't scream defense, it's the things that you see on tape that, hey, he's in 50%. He's down in a stance. He just kept the ball in front of him. And our defensive player of the year goes to Tyler Copeland. So that moves us along to most improved player of the year. And this is a young man, one of our seniors. And again, his game this past summer, he had a long ways to go. The effort was there. The effort was never in question. The want to was there. The heart was there. It was just a matter of him having understanding of where to be and how to play within the parameters that we were trying to establish. And over the course of the year, we had those moments just like everybody did, but he also had some great moments where everything came together. I thought he was an above average defender for us. A lot of times he had to defend some guys that had a lot more mass to throw around. With as much switching as we did, sometimes he would get matched up with someone that was pretty quick on the perimeter. And I thought defensively he had a solid year for us. He averaged 10 rebounds a game and 8 points a game. So he was pretty close to averaging a double-double, for us. And, but more than the basketball, because he did. There's no doubt he was the most improved player that we had as a basketball player. From summer to end of the season, Chris Harris improved, I felt like more than anybody on our roster. But the area that he improved the most was just the way that he transferred character to our team. He really did try to demonstrate positive leadership to our team towards the end of the year. He knew that we needed it. We had conversations about, what leadership looks like when it comes from the players, and what it's supposed to look like and how we're supposed to, lead by example. And I thought, in practices, his intensity improved, but more than that, it was just his character. It was his willingness to say, hey, I'll be responsible for somebody more than just myself. And that shows maturity. And I thought that he improved the most in his maturity as a young man. And, and that's a good thing as he's a senior and he's kind of going out into this next chapter of his life. I really hope that that will help him in the days ahead. Just a great young man. Again, just tremendous heart, just a good person. and just a lot of fun. He was just a lot of fun to have on your team. And sometimes he'd say things that would make you just kind of turn your head. But I'm just so glad that we had Chris with us this year, and he is definitely our most improved player of the year. So congratulations to senior Chris Harris. And then the 110% award. And I know you guys already know who that is. And, Joe Cockrell is a guy that has one speed, full speed. I mean, he's a guy that it's pedal to the metal and the brakes don't work. And I can't say enough about Joe. He had a great year statistically. Even he had 9 points a game, 8 rebounds. So he was another one of those guys right there on the fringes of having a double-double, and hit some big shots for us in some big moments. Had some tremendous hustle plays over the course of the season. I think of some of those games where we had some comeback games where he would come out of nowhere to steal the basketball or to, deflect a ball that we'd come away with, and we would turn it into points. And so, but again, going back, I mean, basketball, I'm super proud of everything that he accomplished. Last year he played JV. This year he was on varsity and started, and coming out of football and all that. But Joe is just a guy that he doesn't just give you 110% effort. You get 110%, and of course we know there is no such thing as 110%. You can only give 100%. But the principle is he gives you everything he's got. He gives you everything he's got. I just, you can never have too many Joe Cockrells in your program. Guys that, let's try to think of a practice where Joe Cockrell didn't bring, effort and intensity and some passion to practice. Let's try to find one. We're not going to find one. We're not going to find one. Let's try to think about plays where Joe took plays off, where he just decided he just didn't care. You're not going to find those. Now, did he have games where he made mistakes, where he wanted to be in position, but he wasn't? Of course. But Joe brought it each and every day, and that is 100% a reflection of his heart. And so I'm just, again, very, very grateful to have had the opportunity to be around Joe this year. 3-sport guy, football, basketball, and then baseball. But just a fine young man. And, Joe, I know that God has big things in store for you, and just continue to take the heart that God put in you and give it all you've got, and he will never let you down. So our 110% award goes to Joe Cockrell. And last but not least, I'm creeping up on 40 minutes. It's going to take you two days to load this thing on my Wi-Fi. But this is kind of the most important award, for me. Not that I'm not trying to lessen the importance of anything tonight, or that I've said on this video, but for me, this is the Coach's Warrior Award. And I call it the Warrior Award because to me, this award encompasses everything that we want our players to be. When you say the word warrior, a warrior is someone who has the right attitude in adversity, who gives you everything they have, who has a humble spirit, but at the same time will compete and will give just maximum effort with the right attitude. And the Coach's Warrior Award goes to a young man that if there's anybody on our team that had a right to maybe have a bad attitude, here's a guy that came to every single came to summer workouts, came to the preseason workouts. He worked hard. He was in the weight room. He did everything we asked him to do. When the season started, we only had 6 players. So he was starting. When we had a couple of the football guys that came on board, his minutes started to kind of go down as they got kind of into the swing of things. And they started to figure out what we were doing. And, their minutes started to kind of creep up. And then his minutes kind of started to go in the other direction. And then there were times where he never played. there was not a single time. You know, he would just come to the next practice. He would go through a game and he wouldn't get in the game. He'd come to the next practice. You know, Coach Price, how you doing? Hope you're having a good day. And he would just absolutely lay it on the line. And he would just compete. And he would work. And he would try to get better. And I can't tell you how many times this young man came up to me after practice and he said, you know, hey, Coach, is there anything I need to work on? Or, you know, what did you see in practice? Is there something that I could do better? Just a warrior in every sense of the word. You know, when, you know, he's from a stature standpoint, you know, he's not the tallest guy, he's not the biggest guy, he's not the strongest guy, but in terms of his heart and just having the right attitude in the midst of adversity. You know, we had some guys that weren't playing because they couldn't. He was eligible, didn't play a whole lot, but if you came to one of our practices and said, all right, try to find based on their body language, based on how they're handling, you know, maybe their practice reps. You know, you got guys that are getting rotated in, you know, you got guys that are staying on the scout team for long stretches, you know, and all that. Based on their attitude, their body language, you know, which guy is, you know, not getting a lot of playing time. You never would have picked Cam out based on his body language or based on those nonverbal cues because he had a good attitude. He had a good attitude. And I can't say enough good things about Cam Pazant. Just a tremendous young man. He's a sophomore. He's got 2 years ahead of him. He's another one that over this COVID break has been shooting me text messages and saying, you know, hey, Coach, I've been working. I'm getting better. And he's excited about some of the improvements that he has worked for, and he's invested that sweat into his game, and he wants it. And it's just really, really hard to not pull for young men like Cam. And of course, we're blessed in that we have a lot of really good guys on our team and in our program, and I'm thankful for each and every one of you guys. But I certainly feel like Cam is well deserving of the Coach's Warrior Award for his attitude in adversity. And, you know, that was kind of our thing for the year. How are we going to handle adversity? There was a lot of adversity, we knew, a lot of seniors that graduated from the year before. Our numbers weren't ideal. We had a lot of things, and we talked about adversity sometimes. You know, you can't control the adversity from outside, but you have to be able to control the adversity from the inside. And I thought Cam was certainly an example of someone that did that. And so congratulations to him, to all of our recipients of awards, to all of you guys. You know, our record wasn't what we would want it to be, but I feel like that is really not all that important in that we laid a foundation. I feel like we laid a foundation for this next year, and even our two seniors, you helped us to lay the foundation. So anything we're able to do from a success standpoint in the future, you guys would have played a vital role in that happening. And so I'm thankful for you guys. I know this has been a wild and wacky 9 weeks, and we were making some progress in our skill sessions before everything hit. I think we'll be getting some news here pretty soon on how things are going to transpire over the next couple of months of summer. So kind of have your ears peeled for that. I'll keep you updated. But congratulations to you guys. And I'm thankful for each and every one of you. And until we are able to get in the gym and get to work, God bless and go Warriors.